How's it going? I'm Jody. This is cooking or something like it. We're going to do something a little different tonight. I'm going to try and do something that's a little more comfort food. This is something you can do on an evening when you don't really want to put too much effort in, but you still got some leftovers perhaps to use up. We're going to use some ground beef. We're going to use some mashed potatoes. We're going to use some peas, and we're going to make a cottage pie. Now, everybody's going to ask me what's the difference between a shepherd's pie and a cottage pie. The answer, really, is that a shepherd's pie traditionally uses lamb, ground lamb. If it's not ground lamb, it's not a shepherd's pie. So all those restaurants you've been going to have been lying to you. Anything that's not ground lamb is cottage pie. Made the same way, very similar, just not called the same thing, traditionally. So I've got some ground beef here. We're going to put this right in our pan. We're going to get this going. Now, this is not super lean ground beef. This is going to have some fat in it. And we want that fat. And I'm going to tell you, you'll understand why in a little bit, but just you don't want super lean ground beef. A lot of the flavor in most meat comes from the fat. So you want some fat in the meat. All right. I've got half of a small white onion here. We're going to take this. And yes, we dropped a piece of it, but that's normal. If you've been watching these videos, you understand that. And we're just going to chop this onion up like so. Don't worry, the dog will get all those pieces. All right. Now, as this cooks down, it's going to evolve a lot of fat out of this meat. And that's okay. We want it to do that. Now, I've got 5 garlic cloves here. You can use as much or as little garlic as you want. If you've watched my videos, you know that we are not afraid of garlic. So I'm going to use probably a little more than most people would, but feel free to put whatever you feel suits you. Okay. Now, as I'm doing this, you can see right here I have a pot. In this pot, I have potatoes boiling. Or they're not boiling yet, but they will be shortly. Potatoes in hot water, because we're going to make mashed potatoes, and just for the sake of brevity, or to save time, I started them a little bit early, because they can take a little while. So, all right, got my garlic. Try and get all this out of here we can. Again, I encourage you, if you do not have one of these, this is a garlic press. It will make your life infinitely easier, so get one. All right, now, this ground beef going. Give this a little more heat. Okay, to this ground beef, we're going to give it a little bit of seasoning. Traditional seasoning, this is my Himalayan pink unnecessarily complicated sea salt. You can use regular salt. You don't have to go with the fancy woo-woo salt, really. It doesn't make that much difference. We have our mortar and pestle with our ground pepper from last week. This is left over. It's still good. Still got a nice pepper smell to it. If you don't have any, obviously, take some whole peppercorns in your mortar, grind them up. If you don't have a mortar and pestle, and I get it, not everybody does, and most of you are not going to buy one, just use ground pepper. It's fine. Regular pepper from the store. You're going to get a lot more aroma from fresh ground pepper, so that's why I encourage you to use it, but, you know, I get it. Not everybody wants to do that, so. All right, now, that garlic aroma is really coming off this now, so we're going to turn this up and try and crisp this meat up a little bit quicker. Now, to this, I'm going to take some garlic powder, because, you know, we don't have enough garlic in there already. And a little bit of this herbs de Provence. Now, we used this last week when we made the pasta. It's a real easy blend. If you have a general Italian spice blend, you can use that too. Or oregano, basil, parsley, any kind of spices. You just want something to give it a little bit more oomph than just plain ground beef, salt, and pepper. I really like this blend, so I'm going to use this. That's going to give it a real nice, just an herbal flavor. That's really all you're looking for. All right. So, nicely. Now my potatoes, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I boiled the potatoes earlier, so these potatoes are actually done. I couldn't lie to you. So these are cooked. I'm just heating them up in here. So while this is cooking, let's make some mashed potatoes. All right, critical point. Please remember your gloves. I have more scars on my hands than I care to think about. So we're draining those. While those are draining, right back in the pan, we're going to turn this heat right back on. Right? To that, this is a half a stick of butter. It's exactly half a stick of butter. I know that because I just measured it. So I'm going to get that going. You don't have to necessarily wait for the potatoes to go back in the pan. Throw your salt, pepper, spices, whatever you're going to add to your salt and pepper right in here. It's all going to blend together anyways. It doesn't really matter. My pepper is right here. Okay. Now, so these are mini potatoes. They came from my farm CSA box this summer. They were left over. I wanted to use them up. So I like to leave the skins on. The skins add a lot of fiber to mashed potatoes. I think they add a lot of flavor. If you don't want the skins, peel the potatoes. It's really that simple. I think they're much better with the skins on, but whatever, we are the opposite of fussy here. So if you don't want the skins on them, don't put the skins on them. However, I would encourage you to try it at least once, just to make sure you don't like the skins. All right, it's coming along real nice here. We're going to give that a couple more minutes. All right, my potatoes are boiling down. So I'm going to take just regular milk. This is 2%. Use whatever you have. I would not advise skim milk because you want a little bit of that fatty flavor. Right. Now that my butter's melted, we're going to turn the heat off. We're going to put some milk in. We're going to take some sour cream. We're going to put that in there, and we're going to take our masher, remembering that our pan is hot, and using our glove. Sometimes forget that. We're going to mash this up real good. You're going to make a mess. Don't worry about it. Especially with Thanksgiving coming up soon, which reminds me that I'm going to do a video for Thanksgiving where I do some Thanksgiving dishes you can use. That'll be coming next week. I will try and give you guys some ideas, some stuff to use, if anybody cares. I do make a pretty badass Thanksgiving dinner, so stay tuned for that. But mashed potatoes, get into them, get into them. Don't be afraid to make a little bit of a mess. And don't be afraid to leave them a little bit chunky, This is not perfection. None of us are going for a James Beard Award here. We're not professionals. We're just trying to make something that tastes amazing. So, once you get that good mashed up, mix it up a little bit. The starch from the potatoes will come out of solution a little bit as you're mixing these, and it'll thicken a little bit. So once you get to here, let that sit for a minute. All right, now, my ground beef is cooked. Now here's a little tip I'm going to give you. And you don't have to follow this. You don't have to do this. This is totally fine. When you drain the fat off of ground beef, that fat you can use just like you would use butter or shortening or anything else. So I have all this fat in this ground beef that is flavored. It's got the flavor of the ground beef. It's got the flavor of the onions. It's got the salt and pepper. It's got all that stuff in it. And normally you would just throw this away. Don't do that. Take this, put it in a bowl. Now, this bowl is precariously small. If I had to do this again, I would rethink that. But here we are. So strain that into a bowl because that has all the flavor. Most of the flavor for most meats you cook is in the fat. Save that. Bacon fat is like gold. When you cook bacon, save that shit. Use it to coat pans, coat baking dishes. You'll thank me, trust me. All right, so we're going to drain the fat off that. We're going to put it back in here. We're going to give it just a real quick crisping after we take that fat out of there. All right? We just want to make sure that that's thoroughly cooked. Now, I have here a baking dish. Now, here's the beef fat that I just drained off. I'm going to take a little bit of this, and I'm going to use that to grease my pan. All right? So a little bit of that grease fat, and use that just like normally you would melt butter to do this. But here's the thing. You don't have to melt butter. You've got grease right here. And that grease is going to taste like the dish you're trying to prepare. An amazing concept, huh? All right, so a little bit of liquid courage since I'm on camera in front of all you people. Take a sip. Okay, all right. Now, all right, ground beef. We just took a little bit of that extra moisture that was in there off. Now, take this right into the pan. Okay. Now we're going to take that ground beef, we're going to smooth that out. All right? Now, in this bowl right here, I have peas. These were frozen peas. These came right out of my freezer. You can use whatever vegetable you want. If you don't like peas, use corn. If you don't like corn, use beans. If you don't like beans, use other unnamed vegetable number 4. I don't know. So take these and make a layer. Right? See that? We're getting all our food groups in here, people. Pay attention. All right. We have our mashed potatoes that we just made. We'll scoop these right on top. You don't have to make it pretty. Just get them on there. Now take a spatula, smooth out. It won't be pretty the first time you try and smooth it out. Just make it work. It doesn't matter if some peas get into the mashed potatoes because you're going to eat it all together anyways. Right? So do this. Now you want to try and seal it, and I say seal it. Try and get the edges as smooth as you can. And the only reason I say that is because when you put this in the oven, it's going to bubble from underneath. And you want that bubbling to kind of be contained so you get some internal flavor blending, right? Now, if you look, it's a nice casserole. See that? Now, I have here some shredded cheddar. You don't have to put the cheddar on. If you don't like cheese, I don't know why you're watching this, but if you don't like cheese, don't put the cheese on. If you want to put something else on, like mushrooms, let's say you love mushrooms, put some mushrooms on before you put the cheese on. This is really kind of flexible. All right, so we're going to put this on like so. It never fails, you know. Somebody's always got to call, or a dog's got to bark, or something's got to happen. Luckily, we have a 13-year-old assistant to go and answer that, who didn't answer it. Ignore the ringing. We're going to move on. All right. Right. Yeah. Okay, so you know it's live, right? Anyways, so we're going to take this, we're going to put it into the oven. We're going to bake it until the cheese melts and it turns a little bit of brown, all right? Boy, that was fast, huh? All right, so this is about what it should look like when it's done. Now, if you'll notice, my earlier incantation used a yellow cheese, and the one I just made used a white cheese. Did not think that through all the way. But you get the idea. So here we have a cottage pie that's fully cooked. You can see, hopefully in the camera, I'm not sure you see, the ground beef on the bottom and it's bubbling. You're going to still get a little bit of grease out of the beef. It's going to cook those peas, and the underside of those potatoes kind of really seal it in to make a real nice dish. Now, something that you may or may not want to do, and I'm going to show you how to do this real quick. You don't have to do this, but if you want to make a gravy for over top of this, I'm going to show you a real fast, easy way to make a gravy. All right, we're going to take a small saucepan. We're going to take some beef broth. Now this is made from bouillon. I'm not getting fancy here. This is just straight beef bouillon cubes dissolved in water, right? We're going to turn some heat on. We're going to put our beef bouillon in a pan. All right. Now, to this, I'm going to add a little bit of sugar, probably about a tablespoon. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. I'll put quantities in the recipe once I figure out how much I used. I'm really going to have to go back and watch it because I don't really measure anything. So, salt, pepper. Take a fork, mix that all up. Now, the trick with gravy is it's got to be thick. I've shown you guys this trick before. This is cornstarch in a measuring cup. Right? We're going to make a little cornstarch paste. Trick with cornstarch, if you don't want it clumpy, mix it in water first. Because when I dump it in, it instantly dissolves. It's really that simple. Everybody always asks, how do I make gravy? Gravy seems to be one thing that people really struggle with. This is a super, super simple way to make gravy. Is it the best gravy on the planet? No. Now, one thing I would advise, that grease that we had left over from the beef, let's give that a couple little spoonfuls in here, right? We're going to impart all that beef flavor into our gravy. And we didn't even have to cook it down to do it, right? Let's do that over here. And where'd my fork go? I just had... So we've already had a phone call and I lost work tonight, so we're doing well. Now, cornstarch. As I've told you guys before in the past, let it come to a boil. Once it boils, it'll thicken, right? That's probably going to take a couple minutes to do that, so while we're doing that, I'll go over some administrative stuff. As I said, this is Cooking or Something Like It. We have a Facebook page, which is probably where you're watching this. We also have a web page, cookingorsomethinglikeit.com. All of our old videos are there, as long as my blog, which has my incredibly witty comments, as well as recipes. It has all the old stuff there, even from before when I was doing this, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago. It has all my contact information. If there's something you'd like to see, please message me on Facebook or send me an email. I'd be happy to give it a shot. I may screw it up. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. I have made some stuff that didn't taste good, but most of it comes out all right. I have a pretty good feel for how to do this. So please stay in contact. The more interaction I get with people, the more it encourages me to do this. So I would encourage all of you to interact with the web page or the Facebook page. And hopefully we're going to have an Instagram page soon. We're working on that. What you guys don't know is behind the scenes right now is the guy who's going to help me with all this stuff, who's watching diligently and is observing how the mastery that I'm putting forth right now. So hopefully we're going to have a little bit more of a social media presence here shortly. And this will all come together nicely. The videos are also on YouTube. If you search for Cooking or Something Like It, they will all show up there. And it's the same videos that are on the webpage, but maybe a little bit easier for you guys to get to. All right, so that is almost done. Let's get a bowl of that and a plate. You know what, we're feeling fancy tonight, so we're going to use the fancy plates. So, because I've learned my lesson, we're going to use a mitt to move this over here. And then we're going to take a knife and we're going to cut this into pieces. Now, you're going to cut this just like you would cut a lasagna, right? If you let it sit for a few minutes, it will firm up. if you cut it immediately, it's going to fall apart. See that? I was able to cut that into fairly even squares, and it's stuck together. If I cut that right away, it probably would have fallen apart. Just food for thought. All right, now where is my good spatula? Took that off. All right, let's see if we can get a good piece out here, make it look all nice and internet fancy. All right, that's the best we're gonna do. We'll put this guy back over here, and yeah, you know, my sink is a disaster, so don't feel bad if your sink looks like that. It happens. All right, so let this heat up a little bit. Of course, when you want something to boil, it never boils. All right, so like I said, something like this, very easy. It's mashed potatoes, it's a vegetable, it's ground beef. You can put anything else in there you want. It doesn't just have to be this. If you want to put mushrooms in it, you want to put carrots in it, you don't want to use peas, feel free to do it however you want. The spices, again, I use the herbs de Provence. It's a fairly basic spice blend, but any Italian spices will do. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. This is really kind of a use up your leftovers kind of recipe. We're going to get a ladle here. Of course, this doesn't want to boil. All right, we're going to cheat a little bit. And here's a trick that you didn't know in front of the camera. You take some of the volume out, and it boils faster. So don't look at me like that. This is how we do it. So if any part of you thought this was a professional show, you're working on the wrong thing. So all right, now we got some bubbles. So really, this is the crux of the recipe. That's what you're going for. All right, this is just some gravy that I'm putting on the side, or I'm going to put over the top. It's not necessary. Really, if you want to stop the video now, this is the whole recipe, okay? What am I at for time?
Yeah, 22.
22. So really, from start to finish, other than boiling potatoes, this is a 20-minute recipe. I mean, I cooked the ground beef from scratch. The peas were frozen when I put them in. The potatoes I did boil ahead of time. Now, we've been standing here wasting time waiting for this gravy for a few minutes. You probably could have boiled potatoes yourself. But you get the idea. These are quick recipes. If you have this stuff at home, you can do all of this yourself. All right, now we've got, this is going to come in real nicely. We're going to have a spectacular finish. It's going to be awesome. All right. So now I get a rolling boil. As soon as I get a rolling boil, it starts to thicken. That's what the cornstarch does for you. All right, so I turn this off. We'll take this because this is going to be hotter than hell. All right. Just give that a little stir, let that cool off a little bit. Over the top. Now, basic beef broth gravy. Now, I am going to cook the rest of this for us to eat for dinner. But there you go. Cottage pie with a little bit of gravy. We'll see you next time.